And we're back with bass tunes on KUCI 8.9 FM in Irvine. I took a look. We do have a good bit of records in the studio from this band. I thought that was cool. Not Houdini, not Sunrush, but we do have Stag from them and a lot of other ones. A Senile Animal, like the one I said, some more recent stuff, a couple of singles. So that's a pretty cool bit of information for you guys. All right, Helmet Meantime. Let's pull some information up here. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this part of the script or outline finished in time because I have jobs and stuff now, how to handle that. But, of course, meantime, Helmet, alternative metal band. Second studio album, meantime is, and major label debut released on Interscope Records in 1992. This was kind of their blow-up album for a little bit. This is, sort of like Melvin's, the time when these weirdo, sort of left-field bands actually got signed to major label deals worth millions of dollars. And nowadays it's not really a thing because of the whole 360 deal. I love me a 360 deal. Yeah. But it is a bit of a commercial success. Number 68 on the Billboard 200 charts upon release in 92. It did influence a lot of bands, especially ones that I've talked about. Nu metal, other alt metal bands. Korn helped. Korn heard these guys and then heard Faith No More's Epic and were like, we can do that. And then they put out a really good album and like tens of other slowly more mediocre ones. But I still love that band. Very influential on the metal genre and is consistently sold well and certified gold now, sold over 2 million copies worldwide. So shout out to that. Let's talk about Helmet real quick and then we can talk about the record itself, okay? They were formed in 1989. They're from New York by vocalist lead guitarist Paige Hamilton. Hamilton is basically the main guy and the only consistent member, especially after their first, 4 records. They took a bit of a hiatus. Was it 4? 1, after, yeah. And then sort of came back as more of a Paige Hamilton and Friends type of affair, right? But here's the thing. Let's see here. It seems like Hamilton was born in Oregon. He actually, and I did notice, studied jazz guitar at the Manhattan School of Music. He was trained in jazz. He wasn't really trained in these heavy riffs, right? He got bassist from Oregon, Australian guitarist Peter Mengede, and John Stainer is the group's first official one. Let's see here. The name Helmet was made based off of the suggestion of the Germanic name Helmuth, and he thought it was called Helmet. And he's like, oh, that's a pretty cool name. Let's do that. They sort of made some music. And right after that, after making a bunch of records, basically right after they started up, they ended up releasing their debut album through Amphetamine Reptile Records in Washington. Oh, Minneapolis. Formed in Washington State. Okay. It seems that one of the biggest records that came out of there was actually Helmet's debut record, sort of specializing in noise rock. Basically, the fact that this Helmet record did well, selling more than 40,000 records, the first one, ended up making it so that this label could even be kept alive. So shout out to that. The first album was called Strap It On. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of other Helmet stuff. Well, actually, they haven't put out that many albums. We have Unsung on, I think we just have the single for Unsung and Betty, which is still pretty good. And also, I think maybe a single from Betty. Because I've played Betty a lot, which is their third album, as a sort of break in case of emergency album if I need to slap something on the CD if, I can't broadcast from the computer for some reason. It's innovative, all that stuff, but here's the thing with Strap It On. It is noisy, it is short, it is much more abrasive. It's a lot. It has weird off-kilter riffs, staccato style, like the nu metal things. Drop D tuning, which is the main name of the game for this band in addition to Melvin's. Weird rhythms that change, guitar solos that more so sound like the screech of a dying cat than anything with melody, but it still works because it's just a barrage of noise. These are things with Helmet. A very strong rhythmic backbone. Paige Hamilton sort of barking at the microphone like a drill sergeant more than singing. Although, even on this album, he sang a bit. But especially on Strap It On, and a little bit less so on Meantime, a lot of it was mostly just him barking at the mic. Right? There's a lot here. It's brief, and it's exhausting, and there's a lot. It's unrelenting, it keeps going, and it just keeps on hitting you hard and hard. New York Times labeled it as relentlessly noisy. And let's see, Pitchfork labeled it in Meantime as one of metal band's 2 triumphs. 6.3 out of 10. Okay, he literally just called it that. Go to engineer Warden Tears, had his hands all over the guitar, strapped on the bass. Okay, whatever. Shout out to all that. But yeah, it's a weird mix of like alternative, more melodic stuff, noise, and post-hardcore, right? Meantime ends up being a bit less like that. It's a major label debut. It was mixed by the boy Andy Wallace, except for the first song. That was, I don't know if mixed, if not, but at least produced by Steve Albini, the sort of more raw producer, very sort of specific. He did In Utero, so everyone loves him, right? I like him too. Yeah, if we take a look here, yeah. Steve Albini engineering, and Wharton Tears engineered all the songs except for In the Meantime. But, I mean, yeah. Unlike Strap It On, I think Meantime is a little... It sounds cleaner, it's more polished, but it still has that sort of heavy thing. It's just very simple riffs with odd rhythmic timing. And that's the main name of the game when it comes to Helmet. You have a classically trained jazz guitarist guy. Maybe not classically. I don't even know what that means. I just heard that a few times, so whatever. You have a trained jazz guitarist, and he's like, you know what? I just want to play meathead riffs and then do some strange chords and just repetitiveness. This band is repetitive. It bashes you in the head. It's like a slow burn of just... And I feel like they're more it's a lot more formulaic than I'd say Melvin's, right? Obviously, I mean, I only really looked at their first like 3 records. After that, I really haven't given it much of a chance because, well, Helmet did that. It did well, but not so well. So they had more pressure to try more experimental stuff, but also make it sound more polished on Betty. And then they went even more back to the more heavy stuff, simple stuff on their next record, Aftertaste. And after that, they kind of just stopped for a few years until he came back in 2004. Anyways, let's see here. We'll also make additional changes to the album. The contrast between the style of mixing, which involves, among other things, triggered samples and a cleaner, more polished sound, leading to the album's distinctive half wood, half metal snare drum sound. There is no citation for that. This is Wikipedia.com. Shout out to that, by the way. Irritated Albini. Later, when in negotiations to record In Utero, he stipulated a clause be added to the contract stating that Wallace would not be able to remix the album after he had mixed Nevermind, released 9 months before Meantime. I do like the cover art. I also like the one for Houdini. Houdini is pretty simple. It's just a guy. It's actually a cute little bright color drawing of like 2 kids. Let me actually look this up to make sure I can describe it to you. Actually, I have it pulled up somewhere. Yeah, it's like 2 kids playing on the grass, boy and a girl, with a dog of 2 heads and sort of a psychedelic background. It's nice. It's simple. Their cover art and font style for Melvin's has always changed a lot. Helmet, not really. It's always the sort of white, red square, right border with the bold text, Helmet. But this one is just a guy digging a shovel, but it's all red, but the helmet cover is blue. And then there's also the blue version where the guy the shovel is tinted blue and everything else is red. I mean, the helmet logo. Right? But it's cool. It's heavy, but it's simple. There's weird, interesting riffs. I don't know. It just gets the job done for me, you know? I like it very much. And there's some singable stuff. I think one interesting thing about them is the way they look, you know, same with sort of Melvin's. But, you know, in contrast to maybe rock back in the day where everyone was wearing more crazy get-ups and makeup and stuff, you know, Helmet just looked like regular guys. They just played some heavy stuff, you know? They looked like any average Joe, but they played some crazy heavy stuff. No straight-up long hair and that. Page Hamilton was a big dude, very, you know, kind of stocky, you know, very chiseled face, kind of on some, who's the guy? I can't believe I forgot the guy's name. Peter Steele from Typo Negative, you know, that kind of thing. But apparently, let's see here, a cool $1 million plus. Yeah, here's an all music review by John Frank, who sort of has a funny little thing to say about it. Under the watchful eye of the record biz, and on the heels of Nirvana's huge commercial breakthrough, Helmet were curiously touted as the next big thing. Unsurprisingly, expectations would never be fully realized. Influential and overlooked. I agree with that 100%. How many people really know Helmet? Not really. More people probably know the Melvins than them. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can even look at listener numbers here, and we can say this. Let's see. Most listened to song, Honey Bucket. Okay, that has that many listeners. And let's go to Helmet. What is the most listened to song from Helmet? What is it? Is it Unsung? Okay, never mind. Helmet. Okay, no, I'm wrong here. Yeah, no, more people listen to Helmet than the Melvins. But I thought so, but I'm wrong. So shout out to that. But it's hypnotic. The snare, it's clean sounding. There's that piccolo snare, that like late 90s all metal sort of very high pitched pong snare that's very sharp and cracky. It's not I have to say it again. I can't believe it. There's not going to be a single episode where I don't reference this. The Saint Anger snare. It's not like that where it's high pitched, but it just doesn't sound like a wet tin can. Pow, 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 pow. Listen, if I could just spend an entire episode playing that snare sample over and over again. Hey, here's a suggestion, all right? Here's what I'm going to do. I've been planning on getting a digital soundboard and just playing that snare and random other sound effects. I'm going to add the snare to that one. Just so I can be like, well, tis, but it's a pong. There's really not that much in terms of commercialness either. Maybe more so than Houdini. But I think the song that, one, is their biggest, and two, is the one that sort of, brought them back a little, brought them some amount of success, was Unsung. And this one you might know. Your contribution left unnoticed. That one he's singing, it's heavy, there's a catchy chorus, stuff that really doesn't happen in a lot of these songs. And I'm not saying that there aren't classical song structures, there are, but they're kind of different, right? Let's say this. So, there's a weird intro, then there's a verse, which is a pretty simple staccato-y riff or some interesting melody. Then there's a quote-unquote chorus where he says something, and then the chorus is just silence. Like, in the meantime, is the chorus the da-na-na-na-na-na-na after the hold that or whatever? Or is it him going, in the meantime? But anyways, he says a hint of a chorus, right? And then it just moves on to a weird breakdown, bridge and into a crazy solo where he's just having a heart attack on the guitar. But then it's either the riff it's either super heavy or the pace really just gets picked up like crazy, and then you're going really hard, right? So I'm a fan of that. In terms of their other records, I actually right now think that I'd say like Houdini, I think that this album kind of falls off a bit. Not as much, but less so that the last few songs are just crummy, but that the rest of these songs are so good that they you kind of lose it, right? In the Meantime is great. Ironhead is the one I'm going to close you guys out with because that's my favorite, I think. It's got everything I want, and it's really fast-paced and crazy. I will admit I might have played it on a few weeks ago on my radio hour. Sorry. I want to play it again because I like that song, and I don't feel I like Unsung a lot, but honestly, I've heard it enough times. It's too. I wanted to play something that's not the biggest song, but I'm not going to play Turned Out or He Feels Bad. Here's a weird thing, right? The song He Feels Bad, there's this one part that has this really weird minor want to feel bad, and it kind of just the singing. His singing is not great either. Actually, it is great, but it's very kind of breathy and more slackery-ish depending on what song, right? It's very deep and whatever. But it's a lot of these songs by the end kind of just, shall we say, fall off in the sense of, maybe not fall off necessarily, but I'd say that a lot of the songs on this thing really just, they're very repetitive, right? Doesn't mean I don't love them, but they are very repetitive. But sometimes I'm in the mood for that. But at the same time, I thought I was a huge album guy, but now I'm no, just give me Ironhead and Unsung and then maybe Give It, especially in the meantime, then I'm good. Betty's cool too. I think my favorite track from them is actually one of their biggest, Milk Toast, which was featured basically not at all, just like for like 2 seconds on a speaker, a radio, in the movie The Crow, the Brandon Lee one. Rest in peace to him. I was so excited for that. That and The Badge by Pantera, their cover of Poison Idea song. Barely nothing. Basically nothing, right? It's played in the instrumental. Because like, oh, we can't have Phil Anselmo like screaming and stuff. And I'm like, isn't this movie R-rated? What's the rating of The Crow? Yeah, it's R-rated. Have him cursing. He doesn't even curse that much. Like, come on. Whatever. Anyways. Unsung's pretty goated. You know, it's pretty goated. Grinding, simple staccato riffs. Noise that comes in. Screeching noise that kind of builds off. It's like the structure of a Helmet song is pretty simple. I got off track on this, and I'll probably just head out here. You know, got the next show coming up. Funny FM. I don't actually know what it is. I think it's a comedy show. I haven't tuned in and listened to it. Sorry, I was out of town last week. That's why you guys didn't hear me. If you heard a sub last week, give her props and all that. I think so. So shout out to them, right? Because I think we had a sub last week because I was out of town. I had to go to Idlewild. I just revealed the town that I was in, which I wasn't going to until I did it. Yeah, I went to this cabin in Idlewild. It was pretty sick. I might go into more detail, but I wanted to talk about Melmoth, so I don't care. But yeah. Oh, here's another thing. Yeah, the songs I like for Meantime the best are either the ones with the craziest riffs or the ones that actually have good songwriting structure. Because that's the thing with both of these bands. With Melmoth, I do feel like both of these don't really have a lot. They more emphasize the way things sound over the way a song is written, especially Helmet. More about creating crazy sounds more so than actual songwriting. But the ones that do have that, like Unsung, Milk Toast, Wilma's Rainbow, and like Honey Bucket, Hooch maybe, more weirdo stuff. The less weirdo, the more actual songwriting. That's the thing I've found out more and more over my time listening is that I need some songwriting. I need some structure. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the same cookie cutter, whatever you want to call it, but I need some songwriting. I need something here. And thankfully these bands do give it to me enough, so it's all good, you know. For Helmet, I'd say check out their first 3 albums. Meantime's probably the best one to really get into it, but there's some more accessible stuff on Betty, although there's also some really inaccessible stuff on Betty, although it all sounds very crisp and clean. So, you know, the subject matter might not be, but it all sounds very clean. My favorite songs, Ironhead, Blacktop from Strap It On, Unsung, Wilma's Rainbow, and Milk Toast from Betty. Yeah, maybe some other stuff too. Also, Unsung was on GTA San Andreas. Have you ever played that game? Right? It's pretty cool. Anyways, I think that's it for today's episode of Bass Tunes. We got to get ready for the next show, Funny FM. If you like this, I haven't done a proper album review, especially not a double album review in a while. I do wish I'd done a little bit more writing and stuff for this Helmet section, but I think I did an all right job, you know. But if you want to tell me that my show sucks, 1, tune in next week. It'll be better. And if it isn't better, then tune in the next week and just keep listening. Keep listening to me. Please, I need you to listen to me. I need you to listen to my show. I need you to validate my emotions and tell me that what I have to say is worthwhile. Instagram, BassTunes, KUCI, BASEDTUNES, KUCI, and my website, bassstory.com. Next week, I don't have a topic. I might have my friend Ethan on the air, you know, my best friend, my boy, because you know what? We haven't talked in a while. Actually, no, we hung out yesterday, but, you know, we're trying to hang out more. Any guests want to come on, any bands, whatever, you know, hit me up on the Instagram and all that, you know. I'm very open to it, you know. Any homies, any whatever's, just do it. That's all then. Stay based, everybody. The views and opinions expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of KUCI, its management, or the UC Board of Regents. And you thought I forgot, but I didn't. All right, partner. Keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is. It's Thursday Friday! Now we're going to close you out with Ironhead by Helmet from Meantime, the album. And then listen to Funny FM the next at 5 o'clock. Thank you all for listening. Have a good rest of your week. Whoopsie daisies.